Hi, I'm Brian Moran, founder of Government CIO. Welcome to Government CIO Magazine.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Barrett with Government CIO Magazine. We're here today with Terry Halvorsen, Department of the Navy, CIO N6.
I don't think you could say there was a single IT initiative, and I think you'd have to take a look at the different positives. From an overall, I think, performance and giving us the opportunity to do even better IT services, I think the next generation initiative that's going to replace the Navy Marine Corps Internet is probably the one we're most focused on. From a financial impact, I think the data center consolidation that the department is embarking on has the most potential to produce the single most savings. If we do that right, I think the department can realize about $1 billion in savings, maybe even a little more, and we'll have more security with that savings because we'll have less to defend in terms of data centers, and probably better service because we'll position them better on the transport highway, so you'll get better responses to the data that you've stored. I don't know that we've got unique challenges. We have some unique areas of concern, a higher degree than, say, some of the other services because of our mission. And I think that would be bandwidth management and expeditionary communications. Because both the Marine Corps and the Navy mobile in different ways, we have to pick up our IT and move it a lot. At sea we have, and when the Marines are in an expeditionary manner, we do have the bandwidth issues. There's you just can't move that much bandwidth around. So how you manage bandwidth and how it forces us to set priorities on what we're going to use, I think that will start applying ashore. You can't keep buying unlimited bandwidth. It is expensive. So at a certain point, and we're, I think, in the dawn getting close to that, we're going to have to look at how we structure our ashore bandwidth priorities so that we meet all of, not just the missions, but all of the intents. The Department of Navy and the two services have been very much leading the way in saying we want our sailors, Marines, and civilians to have access to the internet at work. So how do we keep managing that and being able to do the mission? I think we face all of the same challenges that everyone else does. I am often kind of remarkable that when I go out to industry, and I spend a lot of time with industry and other services, the challenges across for all the CIOs are very similar. I mean, everybody's facing diminishing resources. We're facing the constant pressure of mobility, particularly from customers, and they want the latest and greatest devices. The Department of Defense maybe has more pressure on that because we do have extra security concerns that the private sector maybe doesn't have to the level we do. So I think the challenges are consistent. The level we face them may be a little different in some areas inside the Navy. I think get the message right, and I'll say that twice, get the message right. That means you've got to have everybody inside the DON for certain, in some cases even inside DOD, and sometimes even broader than that. You've got to get the industry partners all to understand why is this initiative so important to mission. And that sometimes gets hard because an initiative may not be directly tied to any specific mission. As an example, it's not a secret, the Department of Navy is taking $2 billion over the fit-up out of what we have called business IT systems. A better description may have been we're taking it out of systems that don't directly support warfighter efforts. So sometimes people say, well, how does that impact mission? Well, every dollar that we can take out of non-warfighting systems is a dollar that stays there, that we can get to the warfighter. So I think that's an important point we have to understand. And I think that's true of the IT initiatives in general, making sure people understand it does have a key part in everything we do. It has a key part in even our mission to allow our sailors and Marines to have, you know, similar access that their civilian counterparts do, even when they're deployed at sea, when they're in expedition areas, when they're in Afghanistan. How do we help them get access to IT? And one of the ways we do that is try to keep the cost down, use the latest technology to make sure that they can access the internet and do the things that, you know, all of us want to do, you know, banking, shopping, all of that. So I think getting that message out there is one of the reasons we're doing this interview today. How do we get that message so that everybody understands what we're doing? Not just shipboard, but as I mentioned in the earlier question, I think because of our mission and the Marine and Navy missions, the shipboard and the expeditionary, managing bandwidth and managing in general IT assets, because you're going to have less of them than places that are predominantly shore-based. You know, you can only get so much in a Marine expeditionary unit. It's lightweight, it has to move fast, it has to be self-contained, and a ship is physically constrained to what you can put on it. So I think we have learned a lot about how to manage and do a wide breadth of IT services with the limited amount of resources that we can bring to the table, and that's probably the single biggest thing we can learn from our mission environments. Working with DoD, the other services, and I'm going to keep stressing an industry, to discover and identify where we have mutually beneficial opportunities. You know, how can we better support the troops deployed? One of the things that I would say the combatant commanders would ask is that each military department, each service, doesn't bring every time we set up their own separate networks, their own separate unique communication systems. So how do we work their services so that we each get to meet our mission intents, we get to use the equipment we've invested in, but we use it in a way based on standards that everybody can take advantage of that, and we're not forcing the combatant or mission commander to make a choice that says, oh, if I do this, I have to use this system, or I have to use that system. I think in the more general IT world, we have got to figure out better ways to partner with industry, and it's going to relate to, I think, another question we're going to talk about later, which is, you know, the commoditization of IT, which has happened. How do we really form a partnership with industry in areas, everything from video to licensing of products? So I think we're going to have to change that model. I think the current model of how we buy individual license is not going to port well to the new way we want to do business in the IT world and services. Yeah, I think it's already having it. I mean, one of the things that I would tell you is we are commoditized in many areas. Everything from the applications we use. We are a unique business in the Department of Navy and the Department of Defense, but we still have similar business requirements that the private sector does. So I don't think it's by accident that we use similar applications. We use a lot of Microsoft. The private sector uses Microsoft. We use a lot of Oracle. The private sector uses a lot of Oracle. We're buying that because if I buy their products and I can use them without customization, I have dramatically reduced the price. So I think that's one way that commoditization has really helped us. And one of the things that we're looking at, one of our initiatives, is to look at how do we buy applications and licenses differently today so that we can take even further advantage of that. That's another thing we're doing with collaboration with the external and internal. We're looking at, in some cases, how does DoD go out and buy applications and IT services together? As a Navy, Department of Navy, in some cases when we go out and we buy an application, we represent a significant percentage of any single company's business. If you take DoD and you combine that on things that we're already buying and use together, it gives us tremendous leverage in the private sector. Typical business, if I walk into you and I say, okay, I'm a customer and I spend $1 million with you, okay, well, you give me a certain level of attention. But if you've got lots of other customers spending more money, you may give them more attention. If I walk in and I say, hey, I am your single biggest customer and I spend $200 million with you, I probably get a certain level of leverage that other customers will not get. And I think that's how we take advantage of it. The other thing I think commoditization does for us is it increases our speed and agility. Industry, particularly in the business sector, tends to respond faster than, say, the Department of Defense. And I'm talking about business, not warfighting systems. In that case, we can leverage how quickly they change, and it costs us less to change. Knowledge moves a lot faster. And that's both a good thing and a bad thing. It's like anything, it's a double-edged sword. So while we are taking advantage of social media, I would say, in the way the knowledge moves faster, and sometimes we're taking advantage of it, we might not even know we're taking advantage of it because the sailors and civilians are using it. The fact that that knowledge moves faster means you have less time to react to it. One of the places I would think, and we could ask them, is CHINFO, the office that's sponsoring this interview today. They have to respond sometimes much faster to things because it's out on the social media sites. It moves so fast. Now, from a operational standpoint, that's generally really good because we want to get the data out faster. But how do you control it? There is an element that you have to have in our business inside the DON of control of the information, particularly if it's operational related. So how are we going to harness that? One of the things that I would say today, social media today truly has been in the social environment, private environment, or the consumer environment. You're now beginning to see, I think, industry, companies like Google, Microsoft, others, take a look at how do you take the social media, which was predominantly set up to be a consumer-driven service, and make it a business enterprise service. There's some interesting software out now that takes a look at how do you control all the social media sites your company might be involved. I think that's the next step in social media, is how does it move from being more purely a social system, or moving out of the businesses that are sales-oriented. I think sales-oriented businesses have learned how to somewhat use social media to look at what their customers are buying, what their customers want. How do you apply that to maybe more standard businesses? And that will impact the Department of Navy in our business sector too. This is an interesting question, and I'm going to give you my opinion, which may not be always shared. I think in cyber it is a lot less about the technical innovations and a lot more about how we innovate both the processes and organizations that do cyber defense. How do we restructure our processes to take advantage of some of the technologies that exist better? How do we take advantage of the speed at which communications can move? And I think right now that's more about changing the processes and the organizational structure than it is about bringing in a lot of new technology. This is a new business field, and it's a new combat field. People say, well, it's been around a long time. Not relative to how long everything else has been around. I maybe, again, I'm wrong, but I look at the cyber defense and the cyber business in general, not just defense. Cyber is a new area. It's kind of like we're at the same spot when we started aviation or we started nuclear power. It is new, a lot of lessons to learn, how to apply the technology in effective and efficient ways, how do you restructure your organizations to do that. That's where we're at with cyber. So I think the first thing you want to get right is your processes and your organizational structure. I'm going to say cloud computing, but I want to talk a little bit about that. I don't like the term cloud computing because I think it means different things to different people. What I'd say is how we look at making our data more accessible and mobile. I think we're going to have a new storage model. I think that storage model will leverage, in some cases, the commercial sector. I think that's another area where even in terms of classified data, we can partner with the other services to get a structure that will allow us to get to our data quicker, make it more secure, and make it cost less. And I think that's all the things that we have to do right now. I mean, we are in a fiscal environment that's challenging. So how do you maintain your mission capabilities or even improve your mission capabilities and spend less money? I think IT is one of those areas that we can do both in. I don't think it is, I don't think it's one of those things that's impossible to do with IT. I really think you can save money, improve the IT services, and improve mission capability in IT if you take advantage of all the things we talked about. And it's not just technology, it is looking at how you train the people, how you change your processes. One of the things that I think we are going to have to adapt to is that we're going to have a little more standardization in IT to get the full benefit of IT. So that may mean that individual processes where they're similar, let's say the financial area, where we've got a lot of processes that are maybe 1 or 2 degrees off of each other. We may have to look and say, hey, to get full advantage of that, change your process. Let's see if we can get the processes closer, see if we can make the organizational structure align better with those processes, and keep the IT more standardized to drive not just the price down, but when we can keep IT more standardized, we tend to remove complexity from the network, we tend to move some of the security problems from the network, and we can move the data faster. And I do think data faster is going to be a key. And then in the way out years, and I say way out years in IT, that's probably 10 years, the thing that I think you're going to see, I think you're going to see email go away. I think you'll see another type of message traffic that uses video more so that you get the full impact, get all senses. You'll be able to, I think, using less bandwidth than it takes today, click on an email icon or something like that, and it'll bring up the face of the person, or maybe even an actual connection where you have a dialogue. And even if that person's not available, you'll basically do an e-message that when they click on it, they'll see you, they'll be able to hear see your expressions. I think that is going to be part of the future. It will be much more video integrated with the rest of our communications. I think it's exciting time to be in IT. I can think of no better time to be a CIO anywhere. It's certainly not boring. You face lots of challenges, and I think that's true, but you also have maybe the single best time to take advantage of all the innovations from process organizations and technology. And if we do it right, what we can deliver is going to be outstanding in terms of services for less cost. I think in the IT business, it has to get better. And I think that's both on the government and industry side. As we have talked about commoditization, we are tied to industry, maybe more so than other areas in our IT businesses and our IT business systems. I think the current financial position makes it imperative that we really do partner with industry. We understand that they're in business to make money, but to deliver a good service. I don't think industry's out there in most cases saying, hey, money is our only issue we worry about. I think it's certainly a big issue for them. It's about their bottom line, but I think most times they want to do good service. I think what we have to be able to do as the government is to better define what we need, what our requirements are. You heard it a lot. But also to be able to understand we're going to hold the line on this set of requirements. To work with industry where we can to leverage what would be a commoditized product that maybe answers some of our requirements a little more specifically. An example might be, we'll talk about bandwidth patching. Because I am a commodity buyer, one of the ways I save money on security is that I get the standard patch and I apply that to my shore-based activities. Harder to do that to the Marine Expeditionary and the Navy afloat. So maybe one of the partnership areas is we talk to the industry and say, help us commoditize lean security patches so that I have maybe two types of patches, one that go to a full up bandwidth capable site and another one that goes to less capable that does most of what the patch was intended. How does industry help us not have to customize? And that's a double-edged sword for industry, and I understand that. Customization of a product for the government can certainly be very revenue enhancing for a company. But if we got into a true partnership, maybe they understand selling more volume of that product that answered more of our requirement out of the box might be a good partnership. They'd still make more money, maybe not as much, but they'd have a better partner in the government moving forward. I think that's just an area we're going to have to look at. I think IT presents some interesting challenges even in the way you buy things. The rate of change in IT is we all know, very fast. It's different from, say, the rate of change you would see if you were buying an aircraft or a ship. And there's lots of people looking at how do you modify a very good acquisition system to maybe better react to IT, and how do we partner with industry to do that even in just the process of acquiring IT products and services. I think is something that we can have a great conversation on in the coming years. If we get it right, could really add to the success of both the DOD at large, and to the industry marketers that are trying to sell us the products.